The last section for this chapter is distance and midpoint. And what distance and midpoint is if you are given a coordinate plane and you are given 2 points on that coordinate plane and they form a line. The distance is just how far across those two are. So if I were to count those, that would give me the distance. The midpoint is just that middle point. So where are they cross, or where is the middle of it? So the midpoint, again, is that middle point. So if you're given a horizontal or a vertical line, you can just count them. But that's not always the easiest way to do it. So we are going to learn formulas of how to find distance and midpoint. Let's start with the point -3, 1 and 2, -4. So if I were to graph these, here is -3, 1, and here's 2, -4. And you can see that these are not a horizontal or vertical line. So we are going to need to use the equation in order to find distance. So the equation that you are going to use to find distance is the square root of the quantity of x squared, or excuse me, of x2 minus x1. You're going to square that whole thing, and then you're going to add it to y2 minus y1. So it's similar to when we found slopes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to label my points x1, y1, x2, y2. Now I'm going to plug it into my equation. So I'm going to have the square root, and x2 is -4, or excuse me, is 2. So we're going to do 2 minus -3, and I'm going to put that in parentheses, and I'm going to square it, plus, in parentheses, -4 minus 1 in parentheses and square it. So now I'm just going to simplify this more, and since these are two negatives, we can make this a plus, and I'm going to do SAO here. So here I get 5 squared plus -5 squared, and we're going to end up taking the square root of that, but I'm just going to keep simplifying it down until I get one number. 5 squared is 25, so we get 25 plus, and again, -5 squared is also 25. So we get the square root of 25 plus 25, which we can simplify to the square root of 50. You're going to use your calculator and find the square root of 50, and we're just going to round to the nearest tenth, so 1 decimal place, and we're going to have 7.1 units. So the distance between these two units, or these 2 points on this coordinate plane, are about 7, or a little over 7 units away from each other. I want you to try at your table group to find the distance of these 2 ordered pairs using the equation that I gave you. So go ahead and pause it now and try it with your group, and in about 30 seconds to a minute, go ahead and press play and try it and compare your answer to mine. So what you should have done is I'm going to label this x1, y1, x2, y2. And I'm going to just start by plugging it into my equation of the quantity of -3 minus -18 squared plus the quantity of -12 minus 5 squared. I'm going to do SAO to make this plus, and this plus a -5. So when I reduce this, -3 plus 18 is 15. We have 15 squared. Plus -12 plus -5 is -17 squared. 15 squared is 225. Plus -17 squared is 289. When you add those two together, you get 514. And the square root of that is 22.7 units. The last concept that we're going to do is midpoint. And this is just going to be a point halfway between 2 points. So if I give you the 2 points of -2, -3, and 4, 3, if I were to graph those, here's -2, -3, here's 4, 3. What I want to do is I want to find the point somewhere in the middle here That's the equally distance between the two. So the formula that we're going to use is, since I need to find a point, I need to find an x and a y. So think of average. I want to find that middle. So we're going to do x1 plus x2 divided by 2. That's going to give me my x coordinate. And then I'm going to do the same thing for y. I'm going to do y1 plus y2 and divided by 2, and that will give me my ordered pair. So I'm going to start the same way I did with distance, where I am going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm just going to plug it in. So I'm going to have negative 2 plus 4 divided by 2, and then to find y, I have negative 3 plus 3 divided by 2. So now I'm just going to simplify that even more. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2 over 2, and negative 3 plus 3 is 0 over 2. And then I'm just going to simplify that even more. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So if I were to graph that, here it is. This green point that I just made is equally distance between those 2 points. That is the midpoint. So I want you in your table group to find the midpoint of the ordered pair 3, negative 6 and 1, negative 4. And then again, press pause, and when you guys are done in about 30 seconds to a minute, press play and compare your answer with mine. Alright, so I'm going to start by again labeling x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to have 3 plus 1 divided by 2 for x, and negative 6 plus negative 4 divided by 2. 3 plus 1 is 4, and we have 4 divided by 2, and then we have negative 10 divided by 2, so my ordered pair is 2, negative 5. Alright, at this point I want you to pause the video and I want you to pass out the homework. It's a packet, and then press play because I'm going to go through the directions with you. Okay, so for the first page, make sure you put your name on it. All it wants you to do is graph points A and B and then find the midpoint and find the distance of it. So we're not going to use the equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph 1, 6, which is right here, and 9, 6. So notice how we have a horizontal line. This is hoi. So to find the distance, all I have to do is count how many spaces are in between because it's a straight line. It's hard to do it on here, but if you go ahead and count how many points are across, you're going to find that your distance is 8 units. And then all I want to do is find halfway. So if I go halfway between that, you're going to be right here where I have 4 units on the left and 4 on the right. So my midpoint, all I'm saying is what that ordered pair is 5, 6. So what you're going to do, and we can label this A and B, you are going to do the same thing for 2 and 3. Is you are going to label your 2 points, find the distance and the midpoint by counting, and for midpoint, make sure you put that answer as an ordered pair. For the second part, you are finding midpoint you're finding midpoint by using the formula only. So there's no graphing needed. If you need to, you can write this as a fraction. So what I would do is I would write your formula of how to find midpoint at the top of this. And remember, we're just going to do x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So I would put that up on the top. For part 3, which is on the next page, you are using distance or finding distance using the formula using the formula only. And this 2dp means 2 decimal places. So you're just going to find 2 decimal places for there, and again, you need to use the formula. So right on your paper, let's put the distance formula of the square root, and we're going to do x2 minus x1 in parentheses. We're going to square it, and then we're going to add it to y2 minus y1 squared. And I want to see your work and the formula, so you plug and chug. for this next part, it says determine the coordinates of the points needed, then find the distance of each line segment. So again, you're going to use the formula for this, and we're finding distance. So let's do number 9A together. It's saying point G, which is right here. So this as an ordered pair is -8, 6. Then you're going to find H. So you're going to find what is this as an ordered pair. Then use your formula to find the distance. And then you'll do the same thing with K to L. And the last part, putting it all together. You have to read these directions carefully. It says the triangle ABC has coordinates of, and then they list the 3 right here. So what you're going to do is in part A, you are going to graph A, B, and C and make sure that you label them, okay? So you're going to put A, B, and C on here and it should make a triangle. Then it tells you D is the midpoint between A and B. So for example, let's say that this is what your triangle looks like. We have A, B, and C. D is going to be the midpoint of A and B. So D is going to be right here. Oops, that should be a D and not a B. Okay. And it says find the coordinates of D and E. Or, excuse me. D is the midpoint. So you're going to have to find the midpoint. And E is the midpoint of A and C. So E is right here. Okay. So what you're going to have to do in part A is your graphing, and then if I were to connect these two, if they want to find the coordinates of points D and E, right here, what's D and E? And then they want you to label them. Then find the length, that is the distance. So they're asking what is the distance between B and E. So this answer key is on Edline, and this video will be on Edline for you to also watch again over the weekend if you need to. So go ahead and get started on this homework.